Have you ever lost so much money that it made your head spin? Have you ever made a bad investment that you thought was going to be the one and it just didn't pan out? Well, if you have, keep watching this video because I'm going to share my personal story of how I had a $40,000 mistake that changed my life forever. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Madeus, real estate entrepreneur, man of God, and a person who just loves helping people shorten their path to financial independence. And today I want to share my personal story of how I lost $40,000, over $40,000, that absolutely changed my life forever. And it changed my life in a good way. Now, when it happened, it was the absolute worst feeling ever. It was almost like the worst thing. Well, it was the worst thing at the time that ever happened. I lost mostly everything that I had at the time while I was growing my business. The reason why I'm making this video is because it is important to understand how to manage money. It is extremely important on our journey of financial improvement, financial independence, that we know how to steward our money properly. See, most people focus on how to make more money, and not enough people focus on how to not lose it. A wealthy man once told me, he once shared with me, it's not about how much money you make, it's about how much money you keep. And early on in my entrepreneurial journey, I honestly really did not understand the true value of that phrase, of that truth. But as I started to grow as an entrepreneur, as I started to grow in my financial literacy, and as I started to make many financial mistakes, I started to learn more and more and more that it is very true. It is really not about how much money you make. It's more about how much money you keep. So as I share this story with you today, I hope that my personal experience is going to be inspiring enough and educational enough for you to be able to shorten your path to financial independence in your personal life and in your business. My personal story involves a partnership, a scam, and a big financial loss. But that loss taught me something very, very valuable. That it is not about how much money you can make, it is about how wisely you can steward the money that you make. So back in 2020, 2021, I was one of those people who fell victim to the infamous online automation store business, right? So those Amazon automation stores, Walmart automation stores. I was one of those individuals who invested in something like that and ended up losing over $40,000 in that business model. That same year, through a partnership that I had with someone who I really trusted, who I felt had my back, I discovered that I ended up losing even more money than that off of deals that didn't pan out, off of deals that got stolen from me because I had someone in my actual business who did not have my best interest in mind, right? So I want to be clear on something. As I share today, I want you to understand that this is not a pity party. I don't want you feeling sorry for me. I don't want you to feel sorry for yourself while you reminiscing some of the mistakes that you've made. We're not here to trauma bond. We're here to learn from our mistakes. We're here to discover the power and the blessing in those mistakes, because with every L comes a lesson. There is no such thing as learning anything from a win. As a matter of fact, I can't recall one thing that I've ever learned from winning. The best lessons in our lives take place from mistakes and losses. All right. Those moments where we feel like we failed, that's when we have an opportunity to have major breakthroughs. And what I'm sharing with you today is a major breakthrough that I had from this loss. It helped me to discover that my relationship with money really wasn't that good, because in hindsight 2020, when I really peeled back the curtains and peeled back that onion and really looked at, well, how could I allow this to happen? How could I allow myself to put all my eggs in one basket on this investment idea that wasn't even a tangible business? What I mean is there weren't any tangible products. There weren't any tangible assets I was buying with that money. that I could then resell if the business model didn't pan out. It was just I invested the money and then poof, I had to hope and wish that the person I was trusting was really a person of their word and was going to come through and the business was going to happen. And that just did not happen. So the first lesson that I learned is whenever investing in something, make sure that you're investing in something tangible. And I come from the real estate background, right? So everything that I've invested in before then was always real estate, buying a home, selling it, flipping it, right? Doing things like that. So I was very familiar with that, but this was the first time I was ever stepping outside of real estate and trying an entirely new business model that I didn't understand. The lesson here is whenever investing in something, invest in something that's tangible, something that you have control over, right? So real estate is one of those types of assets. Then you've got assets that you can purchase on the stock market, right? Actually buying shares in a company, buying shares in an ETF. You have control over that. If you don't like the way the investment is going, guess what you can do? You can sell the investment, and even if you take a loss, you're not going to lose all of your money. You'll lose a portion of your money and still have the rest of your money to go out and try again on the next investment opportunity. I also learned about myself. I discovered that I was in such a hurry to get to riches and wealth and financial independence that I ended up being my own Achilles heel. When I went ahead and looked at all of the financial decisions that I made that were poor financial decisions, poor decisions that I regretted making, I realized something. They all had something in common. They were all decisions that I made while attempting to get rich quick, attempting to expedite and take the fast track to becoming financially free. So I'm making these decisions, putting lots of money on the line, right? 10,000, 20,000, 40,000, 30,000, however much it costs. I was putting it on the line because I was trying to expedite something. I was trying to go from where I am right now to rich tomorrow. And so many people do that, right? I'm not the only one. Okay. You've done that before. I'm sure. I'm sure you could think of moments and times where you put more money into something than you should have, expecting that, man, this is going to be the one. This is the one that's going to make me rich. And lo and behold, it was not a good decision. So I discovered that it was hurting me more than it was helping me to have that type of mindset. And when I asked myself, well, where is this coming from? Why do I feel like that? Like, why is it that I feel like it's so important to get to financial freedom as quickly as possible, right? And that's when it hit me. It hit me that I come from a poverty background. I come from a lack background. And you can relate to this. I come from a background where there wasn't enough. Finances was not abundant. And the mindset that came right along with that was also a disease that I had to take time to get rid of. The human mind has two states, survival state and thriving state. So when you're in a survival mind, that's when you're in that type of situation where you're doing things to make ends meet, not because you want to, but because you have to. Because if you don't come up with the money this month, you're going to be outside. The landlord is not going to take an IOU. You can't go to the grocery store and say, hey, look, can you put it on my bill? You have to have the money. And so when you're in that state where you don't have enough money at the end of the month and there's still more month, you're in a survival state, and the mind cannot really think of anything else other than how to survive in this moment, which means that any extra time that you could have to be able to think, to be able to learn, to educate yourself, to improve your financial relationship with money, to be able to improve your finances, to be able to improve your future, that gets sucked up in the obsession of coming up with $1 today just to be able to make ends meet, which makes it extremely hard and difficult for people to be able to improve their financial future. And so what I realized is that I wasn't in a mindset like that. I had a survival type mindset around money, even when I had money. There was a lot of unlearning I had to do. One of the things that I did differently that changed the game for me like crazy, okay, is that I learned about, it's in the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert T. Kiyosaki. He talks about balance sheets. I learned about balance sheets. I learned about how important it is to have a financial plan. I learned about how important it is to really budget your money, right? To really know what are your liabilities, what are your assets, to really know what are your expenses, where is all your money going every single month, down to the penny. What's that reoccurring expenses that you have that's continuously taking money out of your bank account every single month that you've got to take, that you got to pay for? And then what are my assets? What's bringing me money every single day? And that could be a job for you. That could be a business for you. That could be some assets, some investments you have, whatever that's bringing you money every single month. That is, you have to take that. You got to compare the two. Assets minus liabilities, whatever you have left over is called margin. So if you're that person right now and you're going through this type of experience financially where you have more liabilities than you have assets, you have what's called negative margin. And so you have to come up with extra money every single month in order for you to make ends meet. Okay, so that is worse than living paycheck to paycheck, right? And so you want to get out of that type of situation. You want to get to the situation where you have more assets, more money at the end of the month after all of your liabilities are paid. Then now you have positive margin and you can breathe. You can take that extra money you have now and you can invest it into something. You can improve your financial situation. You can take the extra time that you have now, and instead of having to figure out how to come up with more money to make ends meet, you can now take that time to learn more about money, learn more about business, learn more about investing, so that your latter days can be much easier than your former days, and you can buy your time back by having your money work for you, by going out there and buying more money. Those were a couple of things that I learned, a couple of very, very important lessons that I learned. And I think the third lesson that was very, very, very important as well is understanding that Tony Robbins says this really, really well. A lot of people, most people, they misunderstand what they could do in 10 years trying to get it all done in a year. Now, this is not a verbatim of how he said it, but essentially what he was trying to say is, a lot of times we're in such a hurry to get something done today that we underestimate what we can really get done in 10 years. We underestimate that. And that's causing us more harm than good. What I want you to do when you have time, find yourself a financial calculator. And what you're looking for is you're looking for a compound interest calculator. And what I want you to do is I want you to take an amount of money, doesn't matter how much it is, that you can afford to invest every single month like clockwork, without you having to forfeit your quality of life. That could be $50, $100, $1,000, $500, $10,000, whatever it is, it looks like for you. Pop that number into that compound interest calculator. And let's just say that your money went to work for you and it earned you 10% every single year. I want you to calculate how much money would you actually have using compound interest, the rule of 72, over the course of 10 years, over the course of 20 years. Right? Whatever your age is right now, figure out how many years you have from now to retirement age 65 and do a version of that calculation, calculating how much money you would have by the age of 65. When I did this exercise, it really showed me how powerful time really is. And it gave me more certainty about being okay with taking my time with money if it meant that I'm going to actually hit the goal rather than trying to rush my way to it and having to start over and start over and start over. It is very, very, very important that we gain financial literacy, that we gain financial certainty. And the only way to become certain about our finances is to really know our numbers, really have a financial plan, and also understand where we are actually going. What direction are we headed with our finances right now? And so that's so important. I've talked to a good friend of mine recently who mentioned to me, we were having a conversation about money, and he mentioned to me that he doesn't know what his numbers are. I had asked him, like, hey, do you know, have you done your checks and balances? Have you done a balance sheet? Have you done a budget? Do you know how much money you got going out, how much money coming in? And he says that he's never actually, did the numbers. And we were diving deeper into that conversation, and we're talking about just how uncertain we feel when we don't know those details about our money. Because all it takes is one thing to happen, whether that is an accident or getting sick or losing a job, and everything gets derailed. And because there was never a plan in place, right? A financial plan in place, it is so much more difficult to go through something like that than if you know what your numbers are, you know where you're going, you know what you're working with, because if you need to manipulate something, you can manipulate it because you know your numbers. I encourage you to really work on a financial plan. I encourage you to look at compound interest. I encourage you to look at the rule of 72 and learn more about money in that way to help improve your financial relationship with money. I hope that this episode has been very, very, very valuable for you. If you learned something from this episode today, go ahead and type it in the comments. What is your relationship with money like? What was your big mistake? If you ever made a mistake like I did with money, what was your big mistake that you made? How did it make you feel? And what did you learn from it? I would love to hear your comments, your feedback, and your stories, so that way we can bounce back off of one another and learn from each other. If you've loved this content today, go ahead and leave me a like. Go ahead and share it with somebody who could use information just like this, someone who you know could really use it, okay? And if you're being blessed from it, there's a good chance you know somebody who could be blessed from it as well. So go ahead and share it and subscribe to my YouTube channel so that way you don't miss any other content like this, because I'm going to be dropping more content on this topic and still be talking about real estate and also be talking about entrepreneurship. But I want to really help a lot of people right now understand and become more aware of how important it is to gain financial literacy as early as possible to make their path to financial independence much, much more shorter and less stressful. With that being said, I hope that you have a blessed day, and until next time, you have a great day. Bye-bye.